The fake daughter from a wealthy family is crying and begging to recognize her relatives and return home, in exchange for me, the real daughter from the slums. My mother blocked the door and wouldn't let her in. Charles, she said, she's our biological daughter. Come and wake her up with a splash of water. My father's face darkened. I have diabetes and don't want this crazy woman to taste any sweetness. She collapsed and shouted, I'm your biological daughter. You'll regret it if you don't recognize me. It's hilarious. My parents would really regret it if they recognized her. In my last life, my father won 30 million in the lottery, while the wealthy family she was in was on the verge of bankruptcy. After my parents welcomed this troublemaker into our home, our whole family couldn't have peace. Later, in order to monopolize the property, she directly set fire and burned us to death. She doesn't know that now our whole family has been reborn as crazy and blackened. We are now the crazy Duncan family. Helen held back for a long time before squeezing out 2 tears, and her tone softened a bit. Mom and Dad, I was switched at birth. I'm your real daughter. Don't you want me anymore? My father directly slapped the table and walked up to her, his hand on the belt buckle, and shouted at her, Crazy woman, if you don't leave, I'll spray you with water, believe it or not. Helen's eyes widened, and she was instantly so scared that her pretty face lost its color. She turned around and ran away. She probably ran too fast and didn't see the Ultraman water gun in my father's other hand. My mother leaned against the door and gave my father a meaningful look. Go and wake up your other child. Let's have a meeting and talk about what happened in our last life. It was only then that I reacted and stared at my mother with wide eyes. Mom, you and Dad were reborn too. My mother gave me a meaningful look and slowly nodded. Just then, my father's exclamation came from the room. I saw my brother directly carrying my father and running towards the door at a sprinting speed. Dad, there's a fire. Run, run. My mother quickly stopped my brother. There's no fire. Put your father down quickly. You have so much energy that you can't use it up in a day. I also quickly explained to my slightly dull-witted brother, Brother, we've been reborn 2 years ago. That troublemaker Helen hasn't come to our house yet. My brother then came to his senses, looked around, and started giggling. Our house isn't burned down, and Dad didn't have a stroke from anger either. My father sneered. I'm a man who believes in the light. In this life, I'll only win the lottery and won't have a stroke. If he hadn't been kneeling on the ground with weak legs and gasping for breath when he said this, it would have been quite imposing. My brother looked at my mother's thick black hair, hugged her, and sniffled. Mom, you're so young now, you don't have a single white hair. Then he opened his arms to me and said while crying, Little sister, even you're fine. I quickly took a step back. If you dare to get snot on me, I'll slap you so hard that you'll do a Thomas full spin on the spot. My brother's movement stopped, and he slowly lowered his head. Only then did he notice his own legs. Penny, my leg isn't lame anymore. He kicked his leg and said to me with a smile, It works as well as if it were newly grown. I watched him jumping around the house like a monkey. He even rolled up his pants and showed off his long legs to us. His legs and feet are fine now, but he seems to be a bit crazy. When my father went to claim the lottery prize, although he was wearing an Ultraman mask, but because he suddenly bought a new house and a new car, he was still recognized by the surrounding neighbors. So in this life, to prevent Helen from having her eyes on us, our family decided to pretend to be poor. My father returned the house he had taken a fancy to and, by the way, found a job as a security guard in the housing estate. My mother hid all her marten coats and wore patched clothes every day to the vegetable market, bargaining with the ferocity of someone ready to fight. My brother replaced his Porsche with a second-hand Santana and took a part-time job driving a ride-hailing car after work. And since I'm still a sophomore in college, they temporarily let me off, and I continue to live a normal life. Although there are still rumors circulating around that my father won 30 million in the lottery, our family doesn't look like a wealthy one at all, and as the most normal person in this family, I was quickly targeted by Helen. At this time, her parents were forcing her to curry favor with a playboy. She didn't want to, so she set her sights on me. After school, my brother didn't come to pick me up because he had taken a shared ride order. I was directly stopped by Helen. She took my hand, looking kind and guilty. Penny, actually, you're the eldest lady of the Taylor family. I've taken too many advantages from you. I can't rob you of your marriage anymore. What marriage? When you were a child, you were actually engaged in a baby marriage with the heir of the George family. She looked at my old down jacket and showed a look of pity in her eyes. If you can marry into that family, you'll enjoy endless happiness and won't have to live such a hard life anymore. In the last life, the Taylor family was on the verge of bankruptcy. Helen resolutely packed her things and came to our house to recognize her relatives, crying that she hadn't felt any family affection in the wealthy family for so many years. My parents felt guilty for a while and took her back home, and I also met my biological parents under her arrangement. Who knew that I was directly tied up, and they were going to send me to Kevin's bed for the sake of profit? Helen told my parents that I had been recognized back into the wealthy family and didn't want to return to this shabby home anymore. Although my father won 30 million in the lottery, it was still not as much as the wealthy family. My mother scolded me for being heartless while making my favorite Sephora flour steamed buns and asking my brother to bring them to me. It was then that my brother found out that I had been tied up and sent to Kevin's villa. His leg was broken by the bodyguards of the George family at that time. Later, my brother still dragged his broken leg and sent me back home. After my father learned the truth, he was so angry that he had a stroke. Seeing that things were exposed, Helen, in order to monopolize the property, actually set fire and burned our whole family to death. Thinking of this, my nose suddenly itched, and I sneezed. Helen quickly took off her white marten fur coat and draped it over me, pretending to care about me. Your clothes are so old, I bet there's not even a single piece of fur inside. Be careful of catching a cold. Not only does my down jacket have fur inside, but it also hides my hot figure. I smiled at her and continued. Sorry, I don't like that type. I like bad boys. She didn't understand the meaning of my words and continued. Actually, the heir of the George family often goes racing, and his personality is quite tough. You still don't understand what I mean. I interrupted her with a smile. I'm going on a blind date now. Penny, are you still going on blind dates? The kind of guy I want can only be met on a blind date. I took off her coat that smelled of pungent perfume and thanked her. She reached out her hand to take the coat back. I put the coat into the plastic bag I carried with me. Her hand froze in midair, probably because of the cold. In the last life, she often told me about the grudges and schemes in the wealthy family. She said she was very lonely and wanted to be my best friend, so I gave her this chance and casually accepted the coat she gave me. But when passing by the vegetable market, I wanted to give her a flowery padded jacket in return, but she politely refused. She was dressed thinly and shivered in the cold wind, and her lips turned purple from the cold. As my brother said, she looked like a fool. We walked in the cold wind for half an hour and arrived at the tea house, where we met the matchmaker. Helen tugged at the corner of my clothes and asked, "Where's your blind date?" The matchmaker directly answered her, "He's still inside. He'll come out after the spring festival." Helen was stunned. "He's in prison," the matchmaker nodded. "He used to be a murderer, but he doesn't kill people now." I was the only one in the room who looked calm. "Do you have a photo?" The matchmaker quickly took out a photo from her phone. In the photo, the big guy had tattoos all over his arms and was grinning stupidly. The matchmaker was talking up a storm. "Look at how pure this guy's smile is. He clearly has no ill intentions." Helen whispered in my ear, "Let's get out of here quickly." She looked at the photo of the big guy and slowly smiled. When this guy smiles, that big mole on his face looks quite charming. The matchmaker beamed. "Do you like him even before you've met him?" "Girl, not just like him, it's true love." I raised my eyes and looked at the matchmaker with a sinister gaze. "I want to see him right now." The matchmaker unconsciously swallowed her saliva. "Well, you have to wait until after the spring festival." I picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea. Then I took a big step forward, jumped onto the table, and crawled menacingly in front of the matchmaker. Then I directly spat all the tea in my mouth onto the matchmaker's face. I grabbed her shoulders and laughed maniacally. "Ah, I can't wait anymore. I want to see him right now. Or should I kill you now and go in to see him?" The matchmaker was so scared by my sudden crazy behavior that she kept backing away. "Ah, don't come near me." The matchmaker scrambled away. There was a deathly silence around. I lay on the table and turned my face to look at Helen, who was huddled in the corner. "I finally met a guy I like. You'll help me, right? You said you want to be my best friend. Help me. All you'll lose is your life. But what I'll get is precious love." As I chased after her, I hugged my head and shouted, "Ah, my love brain is growing. It's so uncomfortable." Helen fled in a hurry. when she ran out of the door. She tripped over the threshold and fell flat on her face, after my outburst. The whole tea house was silent. I calmly asked the boss to settle the bill, and my gaze accidentally landed on a noble-looking couple in the corner. They are my biological parents from the wealthy family. This is really a very deliberate encounter. Many years ago, they knew that the child had been switched. When they found me, my brother was peeling a baked sweet potato and feeding me. A large piece of the sweet potato accidentally fell to the ground. I felt sorry for it and carefully picked up the clean part and put it in my mouth. My biological parents saw this scene and thought I was mentally handicapped, so they didn't recognize me, and things just went on like that. I guess after this, they'll never dare to recognize me again. When I walked out of the tea house, I happened to see my brother leaning against the door of his second-hand Santana waiting for me. The warm yellow light of the setting sun gave the scene in front of me a soft focus filter. My brother was wearing a black coat. When he raised his eyes, he actually had the texture of a Hong Kong movie. He took out a warm baked sweet potato from his coat and handed it to me. "I'm late to pick you up today. Eat it, and don't tell Mom and Dad." Humph. He thinks he can buy me off with a baked sweet potato. My brother asked me to get in the car and wait first. When he walked out of the convenience store carrying a bottle of water, Helen somehow popped up in front of him. She mustered up the courage to walk up to my brother and looked up at him. "Brother, actually, I'm your real sister. If you don't believe me, we can do a DNA test right now." She had been rejected by my parents and me, and now she was setting her sights on my brother. She's really persistent. Although my brother is a bit of a fool, his face, which is no less handsome than that of a male lead in an idol drama, always wins the favor of many women, but as soon as he opens his mouth to speak, no matter how strong the idol drama filter is, it will be shattered. My brother doesn't believe in gods because he himself is quite amazing. A cold wind blew, and Helen, who was dressed thinly, turned pale with cold in front of my brother. My brother raised his eyebrows and looked at her. "Little sister, are you out of your mind? Why are you wearing so little in the winter?" Maybe it's because my brother's face is too deceptive. Helen probably thought my brother was showing pity for her. Her face turned red involuntarily, her eyes filled with tears, and she started shouting helplessly and unwillingly, "Brother, I'm clearly your real sister, but for all these years, you've doted on someone who has no blood relation to you." I was peeling the sweet potato and stared at the scene in front of me in shock. Dote, in her eyes? My brother is actually a sister-doting madman. Is she jealous of me? She's really crazy. My brother probably thought she was crazy and frowned slightly as he looked at her. "You say you're my sister?" Helen nodded frantically and was about to throw herself into my brother's arms to recognize him the next second. My brother quickly took a step back and asked her seriously, "My sister dares to eat shit. Do you dare?" Helen's movement froze, and she slowly turned her head to look at me. At that moment, I was squatting down to pick up a large piece of sweet potato that had accidentally fallen to the ground, ready to throw it into the trash can. When I met her gaze, the sweet potato on the ground was still steaming. I slowly swallowed the food in my mouth and licked the corner of my mouth. My brother lowered his eyes and said to her seriously, "As long as you eat it too, I'll believe you." Too. Helen's face turned pale, and she stood there stunned. She probably didn't expect that there's not a single normal person in our family. The next second, she fled in a hurry, using both hands and feet, like a flapping goose. When I got back to school, many people in the school already knew about the mix-up between Helen and me. Helen looked at me with a wronged expression and explained. "They all asked me why I was kicked out of the house by my parents, and I accidentally let it slip. Penny, you won't blame me, will you?" Several of her girlfriends stood up for her. "She's the real daughter of the Taylor family now. She should be too happy to blame you. How could she? With rich parents in the future, she'll be the one to marry into a wealthy family." "Helen, you're really pitiful." I was impressed by Helen's excellent acting skills and quickly clapped my hands. "She's so petty and scheming, so typical of a mean girl." Her girlfriends stood in front of her. "Penny, who are you calling petty and scheming?" A flash of hatred crossed Helen's eyes, and then she wiped away her tears. "The heir of the George family fell in love at first sight after seeing your photo and is already on his way to find you. You two are a perfect match in social status. I can only step aside. Penny, I wish you well." She slowly walked up to me and said in a voice that only she and I could hear, Don't think that just because you act crazy I'll be afraid of you. I'm not someone to be messed with either. I forgot to tell you that your fiancé is a pervert. Let's see how crazy you can be in front of him. I already knew that Kevin was a pervert. In my last life, he broke my brother's leg, and I was just worried that I couldn't find a chance to get revenge. I stared into her somewhat crazy eyes and, instead of getting angry, smiled. Then thank you. Helen was taken aback. Are you crazy? Why are you thanking me? The next second, her expression changed, as if she had suffered a great injustice, and she shouted loudly, Penny, even if all of this is yours, you can't bully me like this. Upon hearing this, several girls behind her gathered around again. Penny, are you bullying Helen just because you're the real daughter of a wealthy family? Just because you have money and power doesn't mean you can do whatever you want in this world. You should apologize to Helen quickly. I looked at Helen, who was trying hard to squeeze out tears but couldn't. I felt a bit sorry for her. It's hard when you can't cry, isn't it? She probably didn't expect me to suddenly show concern for her, and her expression was a bit surprised. The next second, I directly grabbed her hair and precisely pressed her face into a pile of dog shit in the flower bed. Finally, as she wished, she cried very loudly, until the afternoon. I still didn't see any news about the real daughter of a wealthy family bullying the fake one. There were clearly so many of her girlfriends watching the scene. I cooperated with her act. How could they just turn a blind eye? I turned around disappointedly and just met a pair of lecherous eyes. I knew this lecherous man. It was Kevin. He recognized me, and a wicked smile appeared on his lips. You're my fiancé. You're just my type. I smiled along with him and started talking nonsense to him. I didn't expect to meet you here either. Do you know how long I've been waiting for you? I'm still single. I was going to take the initiative to find you, but I didn't expect you to come to me on your own. You know, I'm a bit socially anxious, because of my brother. There hasn't even been a male dog around me. When I was a kid, I always went to and from school with my brother, and no boy ever dared to come up and talk to me. I wonder if you know my brother. He had a broken leg before. He squinted his eyes and looked me up and down. I don't know any cripple. My brother isn't a cripple. I paused. He's a piece of incomplete jade, while you're a complete pile of shit. Kevin's eyes widened. What did you say? I smiled at him. I didn't say I don't like shit. Hearing that I said I liked it, he suddenly became inexplicably confident. Although you're somewhat good-looking, you've been raised outside since you were a child, so you have no manners. And now the Taylor family isn't doing well either. You're not worthy of me, you know. I looked at him, and my heart ached dully. A monster like him actually said I wasn't worthy of him. He coughed. However, it's not impossible to have some fun with someone like you. Upon hearing this, I smiled brightly. If it's about having fun, I like something exciting. He smiled even more lecherously. You're really a little vixen. I directly took him to the utility room on the next floor. When Kevin was about to turn on the light, I stopped him. It's more exciting without the light on. Whatever you say, little vixen. I suppressed the urge to vomit in my stomach. After hearing the sound of him unbuckling his belt, I turned on the light. I looked terrified, shaking and backing away. I was just supposed to show you the way. What are you going to do? As he walked towards me, he started taking off his pants. You really know how to play. You're playing hard to get with your brother. I backed away and shouted, why are you taking off your pants? Don't you know I'm afraid of needles? His face instantly changed. That's too much. Oh, there's even more excessive stuff to come. I shouted and directly picked up the broom next to me and hit him with it. My stick technique seemed random, but in fact, every blow landed right in his crotch. Kevin bent over, his trembling fingers pointing at me, his voice shrill. Do you believe that I can make the Taylor family completely go bankrupt? Is there such a good thing? I became even more excited, and my actions became more vigorous. Finally, he fell to the ground. Before he rolled his eyes and fainted, he still didn't forget to threaten me. Do you know what the consequences are of going against the George family? My father will definitely kill you, bitch. You're dead, of course. I know what the consequences are of going against the George family. So I've already made all the preparations and won't give them any chance to hurt me and my family again. In the last second before Kevin lost consciousness, the door behind me was also smashed open. He still didn't know that the utility room we were in had a whole wall made of one-way perspective glass, but it was installed backward during the renovation. As soon as the light is turned on, People outside can see everything clearly inside the utility room. And below the utility room is the school auditorium. Now there are thousands of students in the auditorium participating in the school anniversary event. According to the current internet speed, the video of me beating up the lecherous man should already be all over the internet. After I called the police, my biological parents and Kevin's parents came to find me together. This was the first time I talked to them in this life. My biological father slapped the table and said, "If you're not obedient, I won't recognize you as my daughter." My biological mother wiped her tears and said, "Penny, Mom also feels sorry for you, but luckily, nothing happened. Let's just forget about it for the sake of our Taylor family's business. It's a pity that these two people don't perform a comic dialogue." I smiled. How can we say that nothing happened? Didn't I get rid of a scoundrel for the people? Kevin's mother was so angry that she was shaking all over, and the way she looked at me was as if she wanted to stab me. "If my son is disabled, I won't let you off." Kevin's father smiled and threatened me. "Little girl, I heard that you have a good relationship with your adoptive parents. Your adoptive parents don't have much ability, and your family is poor. By the way, you seem to have a brother who drives a ride-hailing car." Driving a ride-hailing car is a high-risk profession. He was threatening me with my family. This Bob is known for being extremely cunning and ruthless. In my last life, after I escaped from Kevin, I also called the police, but at that time, Bob destroyed all the evidence and also spread rumors everywhere that I was a gold digger and actively seduced Kevin. My parents tried their best but couldn't get justice for me. I twitched the corner of my mouth. "I know I can't fight against you." Last year, a girl sued Kevin for sexual harassment, and this is how you made her withdraw the lawsuit, right? Upon hearing this, Bob smiled proudly. "It's good that you know," I continued. "I also heard that 2 years ago, there was a girl whom you spread rumors about, saying that she had an immoral private life and actively seduced Kevin. In the end, that girl committed suicide by jumping off a building." Bob's face changed. "How do you know?" "I was reborn, so of course I know." I smiled slightly at him. "So, is this a confession from you?" Bob laughed, looking like a rascal. "Little girl, are you a police officer? What am I confessing to? I didn't say anything just now." "Mr. Taylor, Mrs. Taylor, did you hear what I said?" The two of them quickly shook their heads. I calmly looked at the few hypocritical people in front of me and smiled. "The conversation we just had has been live-streamed by me." I pulled off the button-shaped pinhole camera on my shirt and held it up in front of their stunned faces. "If you don't know what to say, why don't you wish the viewers in the live stream a happy new year?" As soon as I finished speaking, Bob's assistant rushed in. "Bob, there are already 20,000 people in that girl's live stream. You mustn't say the wrong thing." It was already too late. I smiled and looked at Bob. "From now on, if anything happens to me and my family, the first person to be investigated will be you. I didn't plan to make peace with you from the very beginning." Hey, you're in trouble now that you've bothered me. It's like kicking a table corner with your slippers." Unlike in my last life, when Bob destroyed all the evidence and I had nowhere to seek justice, this time, I exposed his ugly face in front of 20,000 people. All of them will be my witnesses. At first, some people suspected that my live stream was just a show. But after the live stream, more and more people on the internet came forward to report the illegal and evil deeds related to the father and son of the George family. The police quickly took the father and son of the George family away for investigation. There were scolding voices all over the internet. No matter how much money the George family spent, they couldn't quell the public opinion. The police directly established a special task force to investigate all kinds of real name reports on the internet. In the end, Kevin was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and Bob was sentenced to life imprisonment. The George family collapsed. Maybe I was too tough in my performance. Although I was the victim, I didn't receive anyone's sympathy. Only my brother sent me to school and picked me up from school without fail every day. When I got out of the car at the school gate, he put a bottle of anti-wolf spray in my bag and didn't forget to remind me not to talk to strangers. I looked up at him. "Brother, don't you think those perverts are more afraid of me?" My brother rarely reached out and rubbed my head, and said in a low voice, "I heard from your classmates that you said I'm like a piece of incomplete jade. I didn't expect that I'm like that in your eyes." When he said this, he seemed to start feeling a bit embarrassed. For a moment, the atmosphere suddenly became a bit awkward. my brother and I have been fighting and playing around since we were kids, and we really weren't used to this kind of emotional scene. I coughed. Brother, your leg isn't lame in this life, so the incompleteness in this life specifically refers to being brainless. The smile on my brother's face faded, and he pointed at the school gate. Little sister, it's only 2 steps to the school gate. If you don't leave now, I'll kick you in. This finally felt right. Penny, as soon as I walked into the school gate, I was stopped by someone. I turned around and saw my ex-boyfriend. It's very similar to the plot in the True and Fake Daughter novels. Helen and I would be involved with the same man. This man is Frank. I remember that in my last life, after he started dating Helen, he owed a lot of debt, and his ending didn't seem to be very good. But I've never had the urge to help others, so the first thing I did after being reborn was to break up with him. If he hadn't suddenly appeared, I would have almost forgotten about him. He looked at me with mockery in his eyes. Now that you know your true identity, you're still so close to your brother. Don't you think it's inappropriate? I thought he was crazy. You're really like having your tear ducts connected to your bladder. Your eyes are like they're leaking urine. And you think everything is dirty. His trembling fingers pointed at me. How can you, a girl, say such things? I really misjudged you. I didn't want to pay attention to him. When I continued walking into the school, he stopped me again. I know you bullied Helen the other day. I covered my mouth and looked at him. You know everything. Frank walked up to me and looked down at me. Go and apologize to her, and maybe I'll let you off. I looked at him sincerely. I won't apologize. Can I bark like a dog instead? Frank frowned slightly. Penny, are you crazy? The next second, we both said in unison, Helen is the purest and kindest girl I've ever met, and I won't let you bully her. He looked at me in shock. How did you know what I was going to say? Nonsense. In my last life, as soon as he appeared, he would say these few lines. I'm so tired of hearing them. He's like an annoying NPC. I scratched my ear. Okay, I've barked like a dog. Can I go now? Frank continued shouting behind me. Penny, you make me feel sick now. Great. My good mood in the morning was completely ruined. I stopped and slowly turned around to look at him. I know why your words are so disgusting. I pressed Helen's face into the dog shit in the flower bed the other day. You kissed her, right? Frank was taken aback, as if he remembered something. He subconsciously covered his mouth and retched. I clicked my tongue. True love can really overcome everything. Can you two just stay together forever and not bother others? When I went home during the vacation, my brother took me to a business dinner of a rival company. At this time, my brother was starting a business with his college classmates. In my last life, when my brother was starting his business, our whole family was amazed to find out. My brother, Simon, actually has a brain. My mother always thought that when she gave birth to him, his brain was thrown away along with the placenta. In my last life, if it hadn't been for the fire set by Helen, even with a broken leg, my brother could have become a promising young man. My father invested in his company almost without hesitation. The development speed of my brother's company is much faster than in the last life. However, at this time, he is going through a vicious business battle. People from the rival company bribed the gardener to pour boiling water on the fortune tree of their company and killed it. My brother handed me an Ultraman figure that my father had treasured and said to me seriously, later, when no one is paying attention, replace the lucky cat of their company with this Ultraman. I stared at the Ultraman in my hand in a daze and said, brother, in novels, business battles usually involve sending business spies to steal business secrets. Is this what real business battles are like? My brother chuckled and said, we're not without business spies either. Is it that high end? Our dad is working as a security guard in the rival company right now. Later, I'll tell him to pull the switch, and you can take action then. I followed my brother to the dinner venue and I never expected to run into Helen here again. She should hate me to death by now. When my brother went to socialize, she walked up to me. Penny, when did someone like you manage to come to such an upper-class occasion? I swirled the juice in my glass and smiled. If someone as low-class as you can come, why can't I? She was so angry that she was shaking all over, and the red wine in her hand was about to be splashed on me. The next second, a black figure rushed over. My brother firmly grabbed her wrist. Guys, I'm not kidding. My brother was so fast that it seemed like he had a teleportation skill. Helen looked at my brother, and her gaze landed on the wristwatch worth 6 figures on the cuff of his suit. Brother, when did you become so rich? My brother curved his lips and said, "You know that there's a Saudi billionaire who recognized an adopted son here recently, right?" Helen's eyes lit up instantly. "Is that person you?" "I have nothing to do with him." My brother's expression gradually turned cold, and he shook off her hand. "And I have nothing to do with you either." Helen put on a delicate and pitiful look, with red eyes, and said, "I'm clearly your real sister. Why don't you recognize me?" "Did Penny say something to you, brother?" "She's not a good person. She bullied me at school just because she's the real daughter of a wealthy family." My brother turned his head to look at me. "Is what she said true?" I nodded. Helen covered her chest and said in a trembling voice, "She admitted it, she bullied me." Her voice was not low, and she wished that everyone present could hear it. My brother's expression changed, and he started scolding me. "Penny, how did I teach you before? All the lessons in Sanda, Jiu-Jitsu, and Taekwondo were wasted, right? Since you already took action against her, why isn't her face crooked yet? How can she still bark at me?" I lowered my head. "Sorry, big brother, I didn't mean to show mercy." Helen looked at us in shock, so angry that she was incoherent. "Brother, how can your 37-degree mouth say such cold words?" I helped her finish the sentence. She still looked like she was about to cry. Brother. My brother finally couldn't stand it anymore. "You keep clucking all day long. Are you going to lay eggs? I really want to throw you into a pot of boiling oil and see if it's the oil that splashes or if you're just being cheap." My brother's words were like they were poisoned, but they made people feel warm inside even in the cold winter. Many people around looked over. The CEO of the rival company took the opportunity to mock. "How can Mr. Simon bully a weak woman like this? I've always said that Mr. Simon has a problem with his character, right?" My brother sneered and said, "If she fell into a swimming pool, I'm afraid the whole pool of water would turn green." Mr. Lincoln didn't want to slap her when he saw what happened just now but actually spoke up for her. It's rare that the two holes under Mr. Lincoln's eyebrows are used for breathing. It seems that Mrs. Lincoln has had a hard time usually. At this moment, Mrs. Lincoln standing beside Mr. Lincoln gave him a fierce glare. My brother tugged at the corner of my clothes and reminded me in a low voice, "Stay away. I heard that Mrs. Lincoln used to be a discus thrower. Be careful of getting accidentally injured. She probably won't take action in public, right? With so many people watching, she probably won't. But if no one is watching." Before my brother could finish speaking, there was a click, and the surroundings suddenly went dark. I guess my dad pulled the switch. Suddenly, there was a scream. And the scene was in chaos. I quickly took out the Ultraman from my bag, replaced the lucky cat at the door, and ran out with my brother. After learning that our family was rich, Helen pestered our family again just like in the last life. She held a bouquet of carnations and found my mother, looking at her pitifully. Carnations represent a mother's love, but I've never felt a mother's love since I was a child. My mother interrupted her coldly. "Actually, I like sunflowers." Helen blinked and asked her, "What's the flower language of sunflowers?" My mother sneered, "At least when listening to your nonsense, I can eat some melon seeds." Helen composed herself again, took out the paternity test report, and said, "Mom, I'm your real daughter. This is the paternity test I secretly did by taking your hair before." My mother said, "My daughter is at home safe and sound right now." Helen continued to explain, "Penny and I were switched at birth." "What? Someone took away my child?" My mother instantly turned into a character from a TV drama known for her emotional outbursts, rushed up, grabbed her shoulders, and shook her vigorously. "Where is my child? Where is it?" Helen's brain seemed to be shaken apart, and she managed to say with difficulty, I'm the one." Before she could finish, my mother stepped forward, grabbed her hair, and pressed her to the ground and rubbed her face on the ground. Then, she directly straddled her and started slapping her left and right. "Are you a human trafficker? I treated you like a human being, but you insist on acting like an animal. A big slap will turn your wisdom tooth into an incisor and make your medical insurance card overdrawn." My mother's combat power was off the charts, and the onlookers didn't dare to get close easily. Finally, someone called the police. At the police station, the police handed the paternity test report to my mother. My mother then came to her senses as if waking up from a dream. She looked at Helen, whose face was slapped into a pig's head. "You're not a human trafficker. You're really..." Helen was crying loudly and was about to call out, "Mom," to recognize her when my mother subconsciously raised her hand and slapped her again. "Sorry. When I see you cry, I just feel like slapping you. My only hobby is hitting children. You don't mind, do you?" I think the reason why my two children at home are a bit abnormal might be because I've hit them too much. Before leaving, my mother held her hand and said gently, "Don't be afraid. Keep ibuprofen at home and remember to come home often." In this life, the Taylor family didn't go bankrupt like in the last life, after the father and son of the George family were sentenced. The Taylor family took the opportunity to take over a lot of the resources and projects of the George family group. For a while, the Taylor family was even more prosperous than in its peak period. Because of what happened before, my biological parents naturally didn't recognize me. Helen became the young lady of the Taylor family again as she used to be. At the graduation ceremony, she stood next to me, looking at my parents in the audience with a disdainful expression. "Penny, do you regret it? Everything I have today should have been yours. Once we step out of the school gate, someone like you, a lower-class person, will no longer have the qualification to be on an equal footing with me. You can only live in a poor family for the rest of your life, and no matter how crazy you act, you won't be able to turn things around." The more she spoke, the more proud her tone became. I slightly turned my head to look at her. "Today is the graduation ceremony, and my family is all here. But your parents didn't come." She still had that haughty look. "They're busy with business. Who cares about coming to this kind of place? By the way, why didn't your brother come?" As if she remembered something, she said in a gloating tone, "I've asked around, and no one has ever heard of the name Simon. He's been swaggering around with a fake watch all day long. He's probably been caught by now, right? My brother is a well-known silent CEO in the company. In order to prevent him from offending customers by opening his mouth, he basically doesn't go out for socializing, so naturally, not many people know him." Looking at her hopeless appearance, I didn't want to pay attention to her anymore. At this time, the host was thanking people from all walks of life for their donations to the school, and my brother's name was the first to be read out. The camera on the screen cut to the side of the stage, and my brother walked onto the stage with the school principal. My parents held their phones and took photos of my brother and me excitedly. My graduation from college and my brother's career success were both things worth celebrating for them. I glanced at Helen indifferently. "I'm different from you. I don't care if you'll regret it or not, because in my eyes, you're just a fool." In the previous life, all she learned in the wealthy foster family was coldness, selfishness, and being mercenary. Everyone in our family treated her very well and tried our best to make up for the lack of affection she had in her adoptive parents' home, allowing her to feel the warmth of a family briefly. However, in the end, she still committed an unforgivable mistake. It can be seen that blood relationship is not the only way to bind family affection. In this life, our family will have nothing to do with her anymore. After graduating from college, I directly went to work in my brother's company. Helen also started taking over the Taylor family's business and was constantly making trouble for us. After work, my brother treated me to fried skewers by the roadside. The autumn wind blew, rolling up the fallen leaves on the ground. My brother stood in front of the fried skewer stall, eating skewers while chatting with me, from the company's development strategy to financing and going public. The people around eating skewers looked at us as if we were two crazy people. I coughed and said, "Brother, instead of thinking about financing and going public, you'd better think about how to deal with the Taylor family first. They've snatched several of our projects." My brother slowly said, "The Taylor family will be finished soon." At this time, a gust of wind blew with a purr sound. When my brother said this, his expression was cold, and his voice was low. He was wearing a black suit, and his tie was neatly tied. If he didn't have a big bunch of meat skewers in his well-defined hands, he would look just like the CEO in a novel. "Brother, let's go home. I'm a bit tired." "What have you done to be so tired?" "I've been watching you act as a CEO all day, and my toes have been curled up all day." Of course, I'm tired. It didn't take long for the projects that the Taylor family had snatched from my brother to successively encounter major problems and suffer heavy losses. I looked at my brother in shock and said, "Brother, are you some kind of business prodigy? How could you predict that these projects would have problems?" I always felt that when the projects were snatched away, the way you beat your chest and stamped your feet seemed as fake as an act. "Did you know all this in advance?" My brother twitched the corner of his mouth and said, "Of course, your brother here was reborn, but that's not right. In the last life, we were already dead by this time," as if remembering something. I suddenly looked up at my brother and said, "Brother, didn't you die in the fire?" My brother became serious, stared at me for a while, then raised his hand and gently rubbed my head, and said softly, "I avenged you all." I then learned that after the fire in the last life, my brother had severe burns all over his body but didn't die. At that time, Helen ran away abroad with all the money. It took my brother a long time to find out where she was. In the end, he avenged our whole family. My vision in front of me suddenly blurred. Then I heard my brother say, "If you cry, I'll catch a dog to lick your face." My tears instantly receded back. In my momentary emotion, I sniffled a bit. I'm used to it. Every time I'm slightly touched, my brother can always ruin the atmosphere completely. After several consecutive projects of the Taylor family encountered problems, not long after, the chairman and chairwoman of the Taylor family group were exposed to be my biological parents who had persuaded me to make peace in the live stream video. The reputation of the Taylor family instantly plummeted to rock bottom, and its stock price also crashed. Many netizens began to question their character and demanded a thorough investigation of the Taylor family group under various official accounts. Soon, the Taylor family was found to have evaded hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. On the day when the Taylor family group declared bankruptcy, my biological father had a heart attack and died directly. After the bankruptcy, Helen quickly got together with Frank. Although Frank's family was relatively well off, it couldn't support her high expenses. After spending all of Frank's money, she quickly dumped him. Later, we didn't hear any news about her for a long time. At this time, my brother's business kept growing, and we moved into a newly bought villa, but none of the surrounding neighbors believed that my brother had made a fortune, and the rumors about my father winning a big lottery prize started to spread again. My father simply came clean. He stopped pretending and admitted that he had indeed struck it rich. In addition to financing my brother's business startup, he also donated a large amount of money to the orphanage with his lottery winnings. When our family attended the business annual meeting, Helen, who had been missing for a long time, appeared again. As if to prove that she was part of our family, she suddenly started acting crazy too. She directly lay down in front of my brother's company, rolling on the ground and starting to curse loudly. "Everyone, come and take a look. I was switched at birth. My father won 30 million in the lottery. And my brother runs a company and is the president. Now that they have money, they don't recognize their biological daughter anymore. My biological mother even beat me in the street, and the adopted daughter they switched with me bullied me. My life is so miserable." As she spoke, she started pulling her hair, contorting on the ground, and crawling in a menacing way. She suddenly rushed towards me but was stopped by the security guards at the door. She could only shout at me, "Penny, it's you who stole everything from me. I'm going to run into you. Aren't you good at acting crazy? Let's see who's crazier between us." I looked at her, as calm as a capybara. "I have a happy family now and don't act crazy anymore. Could it be that you want to fight magic with magic?" My father slowly walked up to her and sighed. "You've become like this today because the people of the Taylor family didn't teach you well. But now, I don't blame you anymore. Now Penny and Simon are doing very well. The only person I owe in this world is you." My mother frowned at the scene in front of her and said, "Your father is really a saint. Instead of donating money to charity, he might as well use that money to build a temple for himself." Just then, an even more shocking scene appeared. My father directly opened the gift box in his hand, took out a bank card from it, and gave it to her. "Your birthday is in 2 days. There are $30 million in this card. And the password is your birthday. I hope that with this $30 million, you can live a good life." I elbowed my brother and said, "The gift box that Dad just opened, was it the birthday gift he prepared for me?" My brother gave a soft, $30 million. My father gave the $30 million that was supposed to be for me to Helen. I felt like I was about to faint. At this time, Helen met my gaze, tightly clutched the bank card in her palm, got up, and ran away in a flash. I was still in a daze because of the huge shock. My father winked at my brother and said, "Call the police quickly." Uncle Yang from the police station just called and said that Helen's adoptive mother is dead, and Helen is highly suspected. I stomped my feet anxiously and said, "Then why did you give her so much money? What if she flees abroad?" My brother raised his eyebrows and looked at me. Dad doesn't have that much money, after deducting 20% of the accidental income tax from the lottery winning, and then financing my business startup. And donating so much money in the past few years. That's right, my father didn't have any money left long ago. As soon as money was mentioned, my mind couldn't function properly. It seems that I'm truly in love with money. My father took out another card from his pants pocket and handed it to me. Penny, this card is Dad's compensation for you. I happily took the card from my father's hand. Soon, the smile on my face transferred to my brother's face. Dad, I think it's not bad for young people to strive with their own hands. You'd better give this card to my brother. My father scolded me for not knowing the value of things. This is a limited edition Ultraman card. Someone offered $3,000 for it online before, and I didn't sell it. Really? Thank you so much. Sarcastic. It is said that before Helen was arrested, she was frantically inserting the bank card that my father gave her into the ATM machine at the bank. Later, after she saw the small characters written on the back of the bank card clearly, she started shouting crazily, I give you $30 million. Do take good care of your health, be kind, and always believe in the light. By scanning the QR code in the lower right corner of the bank card with a mobile phone, you can also play the birthday blessing song that my father recorded for me in the recording studio. Helen was used to the luxurious life of getting something for nothing. It is said that when she sneaked into the Taylor family to steal things, she was discovered by Mrs. Tang. During the struggle, she actually strangled to death the mother who had raised her for more than 20 years. It was many days later that Mrs. Tang's body was discovered. After Mrs. Tang's death, she had been in a state of mental disorder and did many unreasonable things. Later, she was directly diagnosed with schizophrenia. We handed over the surveillance video of her acting crazy in front of my brother's company to the police. With the diagnosis of several experts, it was determined that she was pretending to be mentally ill to avoid punishment. Later, the police found out that the doctor who issued the schizophrenia diagnosis certificate for her was Frank's uncle. Frank and his uncle went to prison for providing false evidence. When Helen was sent to prison, my parents didn't want to see her again. Only I went to visit her. She looked much more haggard. When she saw me, she suddenly perked up. Penny, can you help me write a letter of forgiveness? I want to live. I'm not a daughter of the Taylor family. The lawyer said that since you have a blood relationship with the Taylor family, you can also write a letter of forgiveness. I really didn't do it on purpose. Please forgive me. Okay, whether you did it on purpose or not has nothing to do with me. I stared at her quietly for a moment and then said slowly, except for the fact that we have a blood relationship, I'm not familiar with my biological mother at all. You'd better go down and apologize to her in person. Her calm expression instantly collapsed, and she started beating the glass in front of her like a mad person. You're the ones who made me what I am today. You were all too heartless to me. It was my biological parents who abandoned me that led me to this day. She had no remorse and was still used to blaming all her mistakes on others. A hopeless person like her doesn't deserve any opportunity. I stood up and looked at her. You probably don't know that in the last life, all of us gave you opportunities, but you didn't cherish them at all. So in this life, you don't have any more chances. It didn't take long for Helen to be sentenced to death. On that day, when I walked out of the prison gate, my brother was leaning against the car door waiting for me. He was on the phone and asked me, Mom asked what you want to eat for dinner. I thought for a while and said, I want to eat braised mandarin fish in squirrel shape. I heard my mother shouting loudly on the other end of the phone for my father to go out and buy fish. My father was playing a game and casually responded. My brother put his hand on the steering wheel and drove the car attentively. I sat in the passenger seat and looked at the scenery passing by outside the window. The warm sunlight shone on my face, and I could still hear the noisy voices of my parents in my ears. By some twist of fate, I have a family who loves me, and I'm really lucky. I turned my head to look at my brother and said, Brother, let's go home. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to